Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for Eden Zero Chapter 60, and boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about with this chapter. Um, okay, so first off, in terms of the majority of the chapter, it was focused like on the fight between Shiki and Kurenai, but the one thing I immediately loved about the fight itself is that despite Shiki's collar being like deactivated, like pretty much Baku and Garrett were still putting up an effort. It wasn't just a case where Shiki just where basically now that pretty much Shiki was free, he easily dusted both pretty much Baku and Garrett, but pretty much before moving onto his fight with Kurenai. No, it was. It was basically a situation where both Baku and Garrett were legitimately putting up a fight on putting up a fight on top of Kurenai herself, and that was kind of my biggest concern is we didn't really know how much of the callers were basically playing into the initial back and forth between Garrett and Shiki, but I'm just really good. I'm really glad to see that pretty much Baku and Garrett just pretty much that Mashima chose the route of having Baku and Garrett actually have some legitimate skill and they're not just pushovers. Now, based on the way things still went in this chapter, it looks like that they're probably going to be out for now. But I do hope they pretty much jump back in some way. But but yeah, even though it's just a small little detail like that, I'm really glad that pretty much that Mashima had decided to take the time in order to give them like a little bit of an extra extra fight against. Have them put up a little bit of an extra fight against Shiki. Like I said, the fight itself between Shiki and those two didn't last very long, but it was still enough where I could say, okay, at least Baku and Garrett aren't pretty much scrubs. Like these guys actually do have some legitimate like from skill to their names, pretty much. Of so the other now. Okay, I'm with this next point I'm gonna be jumping into a little bit of tinfoil hat theory, but at the same time, after rereading the chapter several times, I can't help but feel this is gonna be the case. Um, you see, the thing with this chapter is that when we touch on the whole Kagura and Valkyrie situation, you see, the thing with this chapter is we touched on the whole Kagura and Valkyrie situation a little bit more in this chapter, and when I first read the chapter, my initial thoughts was that Mashima was doing what was basically with just only touching on a little bit. He was playing it in a very safe position where he was leaving where he was saying, okay, if Valkyrie is going to die, is Valkyrie is permanently dead, then it was a nice send off. But in a way it also left it open as to whether or not like if there is still hope. Like he basically he left it off in that sort of way, and. And that was my initial thoughts. Like he was leaving off in a way where basically anything can happen. Then he and then pretty much the last page of the chapter happened, and that's where my mind kind of just and that's where my theory where just everything where just my pretty much mind it went into overdrive into thinking of what what the introduction of this Crimson Steel Knight can mean, and like okay so obviously in one way that Mashima has left the door open for basically anything to happen to Valkyrie at this point. Having said that, however, after I think it was my third reread of the chapter, the ending has also given me a much clearer picture of what might be going on here. And if this is the case, then Mashima, you are an even more clever and sneaky son of a bitch than I gave you credit for. Okay, so I think what Mashima is doing here is that Valkyrie's mind programming is trapped inside like the Crimson Steel Knight. And if that's the case, then the pieces are falling even more into place than I previously thought. So hear me out. as I stated previously, the ether met the. We've basically in a couple of chapters back we were introduced to basically a type of metal called to basically to the concept of ether metals, and to the concept of ether metals, and right now I'm still kind of a believer, right even now, and especially after this chapter, I'm definitely a believer that using those ether metals is going to restore her body, but. Of course, but the ether metals. But I think the only good the ether metals are going to do is that they're just going to restore like Valkyrie's body. Everything beyond that, everything beyond that though, like her body is still going to be an empty shell. Now, if my theory holds true about Valkyrie more or less being the Crimson Steel Knight, then from there it'll just be a simple matter of basically defeating the knight and transferring like Valkyrie's mind like pretty much back into her original body. It's like I said, a lot of this is really just a little bit of a bit of a tinfoil hat theory I have, but honestly it really kind of fits. Everything we've learned thus far, it really kind of fits into any kind of way in which Valkyrie come back. Obviously, I'm still open to the whole idea of Valkyrie staying dead and Homura becoming like pretty much the new Valkyrie or something like that. But if this holds true, then honestly this setup in itself is probably the most clever I've basically seen from pretty much Mashima. Like this whole setup, if it goes in the exact way I've laid it out, then yeah, Mashima is basically a really clever son of a bitch. I gotta give him that much. But well, like I said, it is kind of a little bit. It's just a theory, and until it's actually put into play, we won't know for sure. But right now, it is the most likely situation I'm thinking of right now, and of course, and honestly, it would even in some ways it would actually even make sense if pretty much Valkyrie had pretty much chosen to pretty much spare in order to spare like It fits Kurenai's current extremely sadistic side in order to just extract Valkyrie's mind and data and just shove it into pretty much a robot that that in itself it would just fit like her pretty much sadism to pretty much a T. So yeah, that's the other thing that points me in that direction is that Kurenai herself hasn't proven to be one who's really all that merciful. I don't think she would just outright kill Valkyrie. I think she probably did. I think she probably did in fact put her mind in that like night robot as a way of like as in order to just prove how much more sadistic she can be, honestly. Of course, all of this is, of course, the epicness didn't even end there. As the chapter ended with basically Drac and Joe pretty much pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, and by pretty much taking command of the satellite cannon. And now that he has command of the satellite cannon, things just got even worse than they were before. And this is honestly just one of those moments where, you can't help but think everything beyond this point is gonna go straight to hell. Like everything, like everything. Like if we thought shit was hitting the fan before, it's about there's about to be a blizzard of. There's about to be a blizzard. That's gonna happen from this point on. Of course, with this new turn of events, we basically also get the reveal that pretty much Kurenai and Drac and Joe have had dealings in the past, and this is just one of those little details where this is pretty much karma to the max, because Kurenai has spent her whole life scamming people out of money and satiating her greed, but now that's pretty much put her on the receiving end of but now because of that, it's put her on the receiving end of her own weapon but it's put her on the receiving end of her own weapon but on the receiving end of her own weapon by pretty much one of the exact same people who she's pretty much scammed. So yeah, the chickens are coming home to roost for Kurenai now. Now, one curious thing about this chapter. What the curious thing this chapter did is that there were moments where that Mashima had basically chosen in order to focus on our pretty much favorite on our favorite like fan Nino, and you could tell it was shown, and the way Mashima was like what was showing his scenes is that he's definitely starting to legitimately question I suppose whatever kind of shaky loyalty he's maintained to Kurenai. But the question I have is what exactly the payoff to this is going to be. Because on one hand, it could be a death flag for him, but he could start pulling some sneaky shit too now. So, but yeah, guys, that's really all I've got for this review. Again, pretty insane shit. And just really tell me down below what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.